Hi, it's Costanza from Startup Grind Madrid. I'm going to introduce you a master of the video games industry. He was chief creative officer of Electronic Arts for 10 years, and he's now partner as Caroline Perkins, and he's going to give some feedback to our startup. So please help me to welcome on stage Bing Gordon.
Hey, thanks. Amazing what Startup Grind is becoming. So I've done a lot of talking head stuff. I've discovered that kids in college call it death by PowerPoint. And if you're an entrepreneur, you don't really like listening until you've spoken. So we got a new format, and each of these founders represent a company. They're going to give you a little overview. I've seen a little more, and I'm going to try to give useful feedback. I come out of the video game business, and I'm happy to say the video game business was created by high potential people who were bored with lecture classes. So we'll try to make this interactive if possible. Introduce yourself. What do you hope to get here?
My name is John Fay, and I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Lotacube.
I got it here. Is that your sound effects in the background?
Well, maybe. They're making some back there. I don't know.
Oh yeah, this was pretty cool. So in general, for all of you, I think I posted, but it's called "How to Do a Minimum Viable Investment Pitch," something like that. But you should know that when you pitch investors, the first thing they do is when you leave the room, they ask, "Do we like the person or not? Are they an effective entrepreneur?" And then you kind of do pluses and minuses. So no company gets invested in that doesn't have more pluses than minuses. And your business plan, to some degree, is a grown-up version of a college app. And so one of the things you want to make sure you get across is potential investors can exactly visualize what you're going to be like as a leadership team and then what your customers are like. So I'd encourage all of you to try to do what I call a movie poster, which is when your product changes the world and makes customers happy, what does it look like? So in the little write-up that I saw, and it's basically, this one's walls for Tesla.
Amen.
And the Silicon Valley was started out as big warehouses. The whole notion of movable cubes got invented by Intel and Fairchild because they wanted to turn offices into manufacturing plants and vice versa. So I love the traction that you describe. In any kind of facilities stuff, if the people who make the decisions have no clout, so if anybody complains, especially if the CEO likes them, you get crushed. And it's why they end up going to something like Steelcase. So I wish you had expressed a little bit of the sense of not only how the facilities manager loves the price performance of your product, but some verbatims from customers. Even if it's 3 people, one step removed in your family, who sit down at it and try. Things like, this makes me more productive, or, geez, I never thought I'd feel so at home with a fake wall. So to somehow put in the investor's mind your relationship with the end users. And then with all you guys, you're maybe the furthest along, but you pitch yourself as a seed investment or an incubation. The more you're talking theory and the less empirical data. So you had, hey, we got relationships with a couple of these companies already who are starting to do stuff. And that's the kind of thing that investors love to see that gives them confidence. You could probably take drop in more facts about empirical data you already have. So it sounds like you got a pipeline, you got something up and running. And then the final question is, how big is it going to be? I remember Meg Whitman said in the early days of eBay, they grew 70% quarter over quarter. Oh. Should I start over? 70% quarter over quarter, so that's kind of the benchmark. If you're growing 70% quarter over quarter in a sustainable way, all things are good. Any questions for me?
This is great feedback. Yeah, not that I can think of right now.
Yeah, use your iPhone, take a picture of people having the time of their life with walls. And you might even consider trying to see what it looks like on the Mexican border.
I don't know about that.
Anybody remembers Dollar Shave Club? That's a bad business idea with a great viral video. So if you have somebody who disrespects authority in your company, ask them to try to make a viral video. So you could build a wall for less than whatever, 26 billion or something like that.
Amen.
I'm going to ask you to stick around. It looks like we got some good feedback, but I don't think the rest of these guys heard what you actually do.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yes. Cool. 1 minute.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, my name is John Fay. I own a company called LottaCube, and what we do is we make walls that can come apart and be assembled like Legos. So the unique thing is the walls look, feel, and function like a traditional wall, but they can you can put them into commercial spaces, retail spaces. They can be made larger or smaller, and it can happen in a matter of minutes or hours. So you can be up and running very quickly. It gives you incredible flexibility. We've been able to get some traction with Tesla Motors, and we're doing a few projects at the Gigafactory, which we're excited about. We've done some prototype projects for WeWork. So yeah, we're excited where things are headed. Please feel free to check us out at lottacube.com. Thank you.
A couple other things you might add is maybe no union labor required. That would be a plus. And second is it electrically connected?
Yes, plug and play electrical. So very quick transition for connecting to your existing electrical grid.
I would brag about that a lot. Just this morning we saw a company that's trying to do that with toys, kind of Legos where the stuff has electrical connection. It's hard, it's modern, and you'd get a lot of credit for that. And instead of feeling like, you're Fairchild Semiconductor in 1968.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wall in Mexico.
Cool. Awesome. Please.
Hi. So, hello everybody, my name is Alex Fishman. Hi Bing. I'm from Bugsy. We are a bug and crash reporting tool for mobile apps. Oh, you should, okay. We're a bug and crash reporting for mobile apps. We show video and network and logs leading up to the event. So when you develop a mobile app, sometimes you run into intermediate problems. Sometimes you don't know what exactly the user did to get to this particular scenario that causes the issue. So we act like a black box on an airplane. We sit there and record everything that your app is doing at all times. And when the problem actually happens, we already recorded everything that led to it. Video, network, and logs leading up to the problem. So that's the name, Bugsy, see the bug.
Cool, so I got two things for you. The first is you're going into a market that seems on the surface to be overserved. This kind of productivity help for app developers, they're overwhelmed with stuff. So I'd encourage you to think about two things. One, you talk about Crashlytics as competitor. I'd think about Splunk. Splunk was a company that tried to solve this for websites, and it seemed like it came out of nowhere in about '09, IPO'd in a hurry. It's a more important company than Crashlytics. And one of the things that Splunk could do is they could talk really quickly in about 5 levels of detail about all the capture and the performance around the capture. Because these mobile guys, if they're ever successful, I think Zing at one point was capturing like a petabyte of instrumentation data per day. And that crushes, the scale crushes most technologists. So I think back to Splunk, and when they were starting out, they would say, hey, here's what we're doing about performance, here's the capture. So I try to feel more like Splunk. And then we see a lot of early stage companies that try using Google Analytics. And you use Google Analytics, you just die. Google Analytics is, like walking with a cane that doesn't touch the ground. It's just not very useful. But it's about all that people can afford. So so some idea, you talk about the ease of integration, which is great. Everybody promises that.
We actually deliver.
I would think, in addition to ease of use, if you could, I would try to get 3 or 4 kinds of instrumentation feedback you get that's actionable, that you actually know changes engagement, monetization, or retention. And use them as call-outs. It's like, for instance, So the Splunk part is we have this kind of detail, and the solution part is tell the investors and tell the customers some specific treasures that you've been able to find for people. Most mobile app companies do not track finger position on the screen. You know, they only track events, if anything. And anyway, again, a layer of detail, which this template you had to fill out doesn't exactly request. So just as you know, I said before, you position yourself as seed if you seem kind of open-ended and exploratory, or Series A if you have empirical data. Because it's a crowded market, I think you want to tell someone like me and developers like these guys, right off the top of your head, some stuff that they didn't imagine anybody could do before. We did a one-on-one game on the Commodore Amiga, and the headline was, you can hear the sneakers squeak on the hardwood floor. So one way to show people you care about quality is to focus on crazy detail that they hadn't considered before. Question for me?
No, thank you.
Good
Thank
luck.
you for your time.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on making it here.
Hey everyone, my name is Femi Adepogun. I'm a high school senior and co-founder and CEO of Testify Software Solutions. Me and my co-founders were all high school seniors, and we were really bored in class, and it was really confusing for us because on one side of the spectrum we had great SAT scores, but our grades were on the other side of the spectrum. And so we found that our teachers really just didn't connect with us very well. They didn't understand who we are as people, what we really wanted to do when we were older, and especially how we all learn. And so we created our program called Mind Map. And in 15 minutes, we're able to give teachers insights and recommendations about their students' unique personality traits, their learning styles, as well as their career interests, and provide all of this information to teachers in a friendly and usable dashboard. Teachers are able to shorten the amount of time it takes them to understand their students from 3 to 4 months all the way down to 3 to 4 days with our program. And it only takes students 15 minutes to play the game on their phones. Really, we just built our company out of frustration, and we got to where we are today through understanding what teachers need as well as what students want in the classroom. So far, we've sold about 10,000 student licenses to a few school districts at $4 a student piece, and we're working with schools to partner with them as well. If you guys want to learn more, check us out at testifyschool.com or just find me or one of my teams. Thank you.
Great coverage of detail. Your traction's impressive. So somebody like me, we see a lot of companies in the education space and know that it's incredibly hard to sell to school districts.
Horribly hard.
And so there's a couple of things caught my eye. One, you come out of DC, right?
Yeah.
So DC and New York are kind of have been the most experimental, progressive in public education. So I was curious, in a longer conversation, it's what is it about starting with DC as ground zero that allows you to scale? And then I wish you would, even in a paragraph, I wish you would say, here's how we convince those guys to pay us money. And I noticed 2 different school districts you charge them a different amount per student, 4 in one and 6 in another. In the world of internet, customers get really pissed off if they find out that you're price testing and they paid a higher price. So beware what happens when you're asked to be transparent. But so how are you selling to them? And then really quickly, something like what's the NPS? What's some indication of retention? How are people using it? I love your chalk point about how students don't get what they need from teachers. In the end, school boards will test to try to show that they're worrying about students, but they care more about teachers than they care about students. So you might also have a discussion about how this saves teachers a half hour every night, or how this makes teachers look like master teachers early on. There's some number like, some crazy number like 50% turnover of new teachers within the first 2 years. Maybe you can solve this. So the initial sales you have is amazing. Your story is pretty cool. Coming from DC is pretty good. Again, I would try to get, you want somebody like me or even a school board to understand where you're going to go. And so the more that you can describe some of the underlying reasons, why are people buying, why do students like it, why do teachers like it, more powerful. And let's see, I think the only other question I had in watching this is, we saw a company called Sumly. It was an 18-year-old British kid, got bought by Yahoo. We saw it when he was trying to do a Series A, and the question was, you really want to run a company for 10 years, or you want to just sell it for a little bit and go back to school? And he said, I really want to run a company forever. And we said, we don't believe you. And sure enough, he sold it like 3 weeks later. So somehow or another, figuring out, it's great that you're a prodigy, but is this built to flip? So instead of getting loans in college, you can use all the money you make and pay for college, or are you going to run with it? And it's kind of an issue with your youth. It's somehow or other you want to give a hint that you're Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates and not Nick from Sumly. Question for me?
Yeah, I guess so. You know about the EdTech sales cycle and how sucky that is. Like, how do you talk with investors about the fact that you can only sell 3 to 4 months of the entire year?
Well, let's see. We see a couple of companies. Remind has that issue. Also, Newzella has that issue.
Yeah.
And Duolingo, to some degree, has that issue in the States. And you just have to explain seasonality. And because, by the way, toys have that business. Games have that kind of, cyclicality. I mean, we all have cycles. We all have cycles of our own kind. And you're either, and Amazon does. Amazon hires 400,000 people for 8 weeks every Christmas. So I would address it. In general, it's going to be, it puts pressure on your fixed expense. If you got salespeople who can work 6 weeks a year, and the rest of the time, they're going to have to, instead of selling, go out and make people happy. So maybe it's, if you've heard of the concept of customer success, you could talk about hiring duples who could sell and then do customer success.
Okay. Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Okay. You brought up the price checking. So to different school districts, we check out their budget, we check out their outcomes, and we kind of pick our price based upon what...
The most important rule in pricing is not microeconomics, it's a sense of fairness. Okay. And if people think it's not fair, you get crushed. So you just don't want to, you probably need a better excuse other than, you got more money than this guy, so I charge you more. Especially with educators who, they pay more attention to money, but way back when they had ideals. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Please.
When we walked in, the group of guys were out there. I thought they were having a smoke, but there were no cigarettes. There was one big guy, so I joked, okay, there's one bouncer here. What are the rest of you doing here? So here's our bouncer.
Resident bouncer in the house. So I have a quick question for everybody. How many times have you tried to access an apartment building or a gated community and you wind up finding yourself stuck standing in front of a 60-year-old technology called the call box intercom? It's got a green screen and a number of keypad. I'm sure we've all been there. So CloudKeys has solved this problem. We're one of the only companies in the world that essentially takes the old property names directory and we put it in the cloud and we make it accessible on any cell phone using GPS within 50 feet of that access point. Hello everybody, my name is Shane Robinson. I'm the founder and CEO of CloudKeys. We're a Los Angeles-based hardware and software IoT company. We're also a SaaS business model. We have real traction. In a 5-week pre-sale campaign, we sold 256 buildings. We have patents approved and issued on our technology. And we're currently in negotiations with 4 of the largest property management companies in the United States to test our technology. We also have beta installations in Los Angeles and Las Vegas. And today we're here to find a strategic investor to raise a $2.5 million round so that we can take our pre-sales into manufacturing and we can scale our business with B2B sales offices. We're looking forward to saying hello, and please come and check out our demo. We have a wonderful hardware demo. You can see us in the tent. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So you obviously are comfortable selling, and you look like you'd be comfortable walking into somebody who is used to building and developing apartment buildings for a living. So a couple thoughts. One is patents aren't as valuable as they used to be. When Google bought Motorola, Fortune 1000 thought patents were worth $3 million each, and then the court behavior changed in Texas, so patents are worth maybe as much as a couple $100,000. So I would take patents out of your headline, because what's really going to be defensible is not the patents. What's really going to be defensible is your credibility with the apartment owners. You're going to somehow make them more money or save their supervisors some headaches. And so if you could add a little bit more about the relationship you have with them and how that's defensible. Because if you're a master salesperson, it's very likely that after this first product, you're going to find ways to improve the average revenue per user and find something else to sell them. I like the SaaS business model a lot. And then for someone like me,
we actually give the hardware and software away for, we give the hardware and the mobile apps away for free, and we upgrade their property. So it doesn't matter if the building's from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. We built the hardware on a cellular platform, so we can integrate any door, gate, or garage within 30 minutes.
And do you make your own locks, or do you borrow August or something like that?
We make our own hardware. We designed our own hardware, and we make our own hardware. So essentially, the business model is set up for easy adoption.
In the interest of time, my advice there would be, and the amount of time you spend on patents, it's talk about understanding the owner's problem. The way you talk to the audience was great. And then second, think about lifetime value versus cost of acquisition, especially if you're putting in the hardware. If you were to say, bankers love this, look, for $100, I go negative 100, and I pay it all back in 98 days, and the LTV per room we project to be $3,000. Right. So now, the message about venture capitalists, 100% of them pay attention to 2 slides. The first slide, which is as boring as this, people tune out, and then the Excel spreadsheet slide. Right. And everything else is random. And unless you talk to them directly and challenge them to maintain eye contact. So trying to get across some of the numbers even in your pitch would be useful. And then let's see, from trying to get a Silicon Valley, you're in LA, there's a couple early stage VCs there. You're gonna want to do the LTV and then talk about how you hold the customers for 5 years. Right. And if you can tell that story in addition to the original traction, you should get a good Series A. And do you have a CTO?
Of course, absolutely. Yeah, full time.
So I would overly brag about the quality of your tech stack and your people, because if you don't, it begs the question, are you just a sales rep? Right. And so, just drop that in, people go, okay, check, I got it. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great advice. Thanks, B.
Appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Cool.
It's way better to go last.
Yeah, last but not least. My name's Adam. I'm co-founder at BioVirtua and a neurology fellow at Stanford. One of the things that our team noticed with legacy telemedicine, which is a doctor and a patient communicating remotely, is how to do that really powerfully, that captures all the nuance and subtlety that a doctor might notice in the movements of a patient. An example would be if I had a stroke patient and I wanted to follow their rehab course. Ideally, I'd need them to be in front of me so I can walk around them. I can really appreciate how they move their arms and their gait, and then quantify all of that data so I can use it later on for diagnosis or even prediction. So what BioVirtua is doing is we're building on the successes of telemedicine, and we've created and built an augmented reality healthcare platform that takes a 3D holographic rendering model of the patient in real time and integrates their electronic medical record through a user interface for the provider, the physician, the nurse practitioner. We are currently in the late stage of formalizing a pilot study with a healthcare provider out in the East Coast with about 500,000 patients, and we're looking for some strategic investors, domain experts that can help us facilitate those kind of connections so we can get a sense of how to move this forward and be really successful. Thanks.
So congratulations, you're in a super hot space. So the idea of reinventing the patient-doctor experience, getting telemedicine, and reducing costs and improving efficacy, is wonderful. So you got that right. I would never use the word study in a pitch. As soon as you use that word, you sound like you're going for a grant, and that says, oh crap, these guys are never going to make any money. They're going to be in academia. So I would, that traction, the 500,000 people, is spectacular. I just, watch your terms. And then what really popped for me, other than the opportunity, is you've got some terrific sounding people. In talking about the people, I would not just say who they are, I would somehow hint, what are they going to be able to do specifically in a platform that no one else can do? I know all the AR companies, they're all dying for a real application. HoloLens has Walk on Mars slowly if you have a private room, and Magic Leap has a whale, and Meta has a car. And the actual AR company that has a real application is Daiquiri, which is a hard hat for basically telling hard hats what to touch and what not to touch. I could make a political joke there, but I won't. And so somehow or another, if you mention the founders, but you don't mention what they're going to solve, it's it positions you as a seed stage, which I think you are. The demo on your website, I would not use because it doesn't imply a specific kind of solution. What it implies is I can show half a guy sitting in a doctor's office. And I think you'd be better off with mock-up screenshots showing what your system's going to be able to recognize, what computer vision can recognize. And go like hell. So I don't think in the write-up you don't seem smart enough, or you don't imply enough smarts about why AR is moving so slowly. And then we've invested in companies that are trying to solve either health IT or the patient relationship. And they all struggle a little more than they should. One, they struggle because they don't have a consumerized enough patient-facing experience. The doctors don't quite get around to doing it unless they're doing it every day. They tend not to do it. So I would think what you want to look like to investors is you're the medical version of the guys doing autonomous cars, who 3 guys leave Google and sell themselves for $1 billion. And if you do something like that, that would be good. And you haven't quite demonstrated enough of a pedigree or enough of a strategy. But I think you ought to be able to get some seed funding. I'd go see Vinod Khosla. He's the person most likely to want to invest in showing doctors how stupid they are with data. He might be afraid of the AR thing. So he's really interested in the data, nervous about the AR. I probably know more about all the AR companies than anybody. as an investor in it because I see them all on a regular basis. And they all have problems that you haven't exactly identified. But I think it changed the world, and I believe that 10% of humans are going to be wearing some kind of smart goggles within the decade per month. So you got a billion MAUs in 10 years, and trillions of dollars wasted in the medical business. So it sounds like you got good people. So I'd say just a little crisper in how you talk about yourselves. And one of the things that all you guys, what you want to do when you're done talking to investors, they want to know the day the money shows up, are you going to party or do you have a week-by-week plan? So, what are you going to actually build?
Well, I've got to go. Thank you very much for the feedback. Appreciate it.